Hello, children, my super kids. Welcome to another class with Mr. Ehige. In this class, we are going to be looking at changing decimals to fraction. In our previous class, we have already discussed how you can change fraction to decimals. In changing decimals to fraction, we are going to make use of the place value of the last digits. The place value of the last digit will determine what the denominator will become. For example, in our first example, we have 0.3 and it's in the 10th place. 10th, if you check, that is the 10th place. So it means the denominator is going to be 10 over the 3, or rather 3 over 10. So because 3 is the decimal fraction, so we put 3 as our numerator. However, 3 over 10 is in the simplest form. It cannot be reduced any further, so it becomes our final answer. The same way we are going to look at the second example, which is 0.025. The last digit 5 is in the thousandth position. Thousandth position. Now, because 5 is in the thousandth position, it simply means our denominator is going to be 1000. 1000. So the first thing we are going to do now is to write 1000 as our denominator. So you write 1000 as your denominator. Look at your decimal fraction. The number we can pick out from there is 25. So we put 25 as our numerator. We can't leave this as a final answer because 25 can divide both the numerator and the denominator. So we begin by dividing the numerator by 25 and also the denominator. So 25 divided by 25 for the numerator, we get 1. 1 over 25 divided 100 gives us a 4. Divide the 0 gives us a 0. So that's 40. So the final answer is 1 over 40 because 1 over 40 cannot be reduced any further. Alright? So now let's look at the final question or example. 1.75. We have a whole number in this question. So the first thing you do is to write down the whole number and put a plus. Write down the whole number and put a plus. So what are we going to get? We have 1 plus 0.75. Now to deal with this 75 or 0.75, we look at the last digit is in the 100th position. In the 100th position, that's the second digit, all right? So since in the 100th position, it means our denominator is going to be 100. 100. So what we do next is to write 100 as our denominator and put whatever we have as our decimal fraction as numerator. When you check, it's 75. So we put our 75 as our numerator. This fraction is a proper fraction, but it's not in the lowest term. So we divide by 25 again because 25 can divide 75 and 100. So when we do this, for the numerator, we are going to get a 3. But first, put your 1 down, which is your whole number. And then you do the division. Alright, 75 divided by 25 is 3. And 100 divided by 25 is 4. Now, we are going to look at multiplication of decimals. First, by multiples of 10. Multiplication of decimals by multiples of 10. Multiplication of decimals by multiples of 10. In this, we are going to multiply by whole number, regular whole number first. Now, an example of a whole number is 23. And 23 in a decimal form can be written as 23.0. 23.0. Now, let's multiply 23.0 by 10. The answer is 230. How did we arrive at this answer? When you multiplying a decimal by a multiple of 10, you are going to shift the decimal point by one place. So you move the decimal point to the right by one place in multiplication, because we have 1 0 only, and so the answer becomes 230. Now let's look at 57 also. 57 is the same thing as 57.0. So when we multiply this by 10, the same way we shift the 0 by one place and becomes 700, 570. 570. Now we are going to look at more examples. All right, this time around we are going to try to multiply 45.34 by a 10. Now we are supposed to shift zeros to the right when multiplying by multiples of 10. Now all we need to do is to check how many zeros we have. Is just 1. All right, so we shift this decimal point by 1. The same way, if we have 5.248, we can multiply by 100 by shifting it twice. So it becomes 524.8. So you shift it twice because there are 2 zeros. All right, also we have 1.0457. We shift 3 times. So we are going to have 1, 2, 3. So you have 1045.7. Now let's look at a small, very small decimal number multiplied by 100. The same way we shift the decimal point twice. So it becomes 001.5. But the last 2 zeros are not consequential. All right, so the last 2 zeros are not important, so we have to ignore them. So our answer therefore is simply 1.5. 1.5. This is how we deal with small decimal fractions. Now let's look at this other one. It looks extremely small. Multiplied by 1000. We are also going to shift the decimal point 3 times. 1, 2, and 3. So we have 3.68. So that becomes 3.68. So when you multiply this, you are going to have 4.2. 4.2. So when the number of zeros are many, just throw them away. Now look at this. Multiply by 100. This is the position of the decimal point. So it's going to be 400.06. We cannot throw these zeros away because they are important. Right? Now let's look at something else. How to multiply decimals. Multiplication of decimals. We have 2 numbers here. So 1.34 times 9.8. So we try to ignore the decimal point while multiplying, because these decimal points or places can be used to adjust the final answer. So we start by multiplying 8 times 4. All right, that gives us a 32. So we put down 2, carry 3. 8 times 3 is 24 plus 3 is 27, carry 2. 8 times 1 is 8 plus 2 is 10. Alright, so we multiply by 9. Alright, we put 0 to cover the space. 4 times 9 is 36. Put down 6, carry 3. 9 times 3 is 27 plus 3. Alright, that gives us 30, carry 3. 9 times 1 is 9 plus 3 is 12. So what we do next, as usual, is to add up the numbers. So first place we have a 2, then we have a 3 here, that's 13. So we have 1 here, the 1 plus 0 is 1. Then we add 1 to 2, and that gives us 3. Then we have 1 here. So that at the end we have 13132. Now originally from the question we have 2 decimal places in the first number and 1 decimal place in the second number. So that means we are going to have 3 decimal places. So this means shifting or moving the decimal point from the position which is outside it on the right hand side 3 times inside to the left. Alright, so we are going to move the decimal point from the right side of the 2 over the 2 over the 3 and over the 1. Alright, so we are going to have it between 13 or between 3 and 1. So we have 13.132. 13.132. Now let's look at dividing decimals. First, by multiples of 10. Now we are going to learn how to divide decimals by multiples of 10. We have learned previously we shift decimal point to the right hand side when multiplying. But this time when dividing, we are going to do it in the opposite way. Alright, that moving it to the left hand side. Now let's begin division by multiples of 10. The first one we are going to be looking at is 47 divided by 10. 47 is a whole number as usual. Where is the position of the decimal point? 47.0. That's 7.0. So when we divide, we move to the left hand side by 1 place because we are dividing by 10. So we now have 4.7. The 0 is removed. We have 250. 2 zeros to move our decimal point. So we have 250. From outside it, we have 2. And so we have 2.50. The 0 again is left to go or allowed to go. So we are going to have 2.5. So if we have 3.45 divided by 10, what is going to happen? Because we have to move it to the left hand side by 1 place. It will now become 0.345. Then there has to be a 0 to cover up the decimal point. So that is 0.345. 0.345. Now look at the next one. 0.72 divided by 100. Well, at this time we have to move further to the left hand side by 2 places. Alright, so we are adding extra 2 zeros. So we are going to move 1, 2. See? So those 2 zeros have been used to cover it up. So we have 0.0072. Now let's try this one. 4.42.85, because when you move the decimal point from outside, it gives you 4 points. Now let's take a look at a normal division. We have 31.773 divided by 5.1. So let's draw our division symbol. and put our 5.1 as usual outside it. Now 5.1 being your dividend, 5.1 being your divisor, has a decimal point. We must remove it because your divisor must always be without decimal point. So we have to remove it by one place by simply moving it to the right. All right, then at the same time we are also going to do the same to the dividend. Okay, so after moving it like this, we have to go straight to the dividend and move it also to the right hand side by one place. All right, so like that. So we are going to have 51 as your new divisor. Then the dividend now this time becomes 317.73. So let's begin the division. Remember how we do our division: division, multiplication, subtraction, and bring down. So we are going to divide 317 by 51. Okay, so when you divide 317 by 51, we are going to obtain a 6. All right, we are going to get 6. Now this 6 is written on top. So we write the 6, which is the quotient, on top of the symbol. So this 6 is later on used to multiply the divisor. So when we multiply the divisor by 6, we are going to get 306. All right, so the next step is subtraction. When we subtract, we get 1. Then the next step is to bring down. We bring down the 7. Remember, we are ignoring the decimal point. All right, so we have 117. So when 51 is allowed to divide 117, is 2 times. All right, so 2 times 51 gives us 102. All right, so we put our answer there. That is 117 minus 102, that is 15. Then you bring down 3, and that gives us 153. So now we are going to divide 153 by 51. All right, now when you divide 153 by 51, you are going to get exactly 3. All right, so the same way you continue, multiply the divisor by 3 and you get 100. So when we subtract, we get a 0. So our answer is 6.23. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next class.